I love the first Terminator. It has action, dystopia, horror, drama, and tension, all beautifully wrapped into a grimy and low-budget sci-fi film. The Terminator hit the screens in 1984, directed by James Cameron, written by him alongside the writer and producer Gail Ann Hurd, with the main cast comprising of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn, Lance Henriksen, and Paul Winfield. The Terminator is a culmination of the rising slasher horror genre and the horrible visions of a future where our creations turn against us. It is also the one film that proved Arnold Schwarzenegger was more than a muscle-bound Hercules that was placed to look strong. His movements, the way he talks, and the way he conducts himself in his role as the T-800 gives the terrifying combination of Michael Myers and turning him into an almost indestructible cyborg, such as the Terminator. Terminator 1 also has a great cast that carries the movie from beginning to end, from Linda Hamilton's naive but caring presentation of Sarah Connor, and Michael Biehn's portrayal of a disoriented but determined soldier to save the one person that would secure humanity's survival. The movie begins with two beings arriving from the future, a Terminator and a soldier, both with the same target but different objectives, one to kill Sarah Connor and the other to protect her. From the get-go, you can already tell which is which, from Arnold's dominating and cold presence to Kyle Reese's immediate sense of confusion and disorientation as he finds himself in a world he never got to grow up in. The Terminator pulls this off beautifully, showing a direct contrast between the two, showing how much of an advantage the cyborg has, and how Kyle has to rely on his adaptability and survival instincts just to get a weapon. And even then, the odds are still greatly stacked against him. After the introduction, it's a race against the clock as to who can get to the target first. And this is where Sarah Connor comes in, a young, hard-working woman in LA just trying to get by and make ends meet until the two future beings come into contact with her. Throughout the course of the film, we see an evolution unfold, and this is from the result of her time with Kyle Reese and the time spent trying to run or fight off the Terminator that's been sent to kill her. It was a good thing her character wasn't written to just automatically believe Kyle's words. She still shows doubt and fear despite the damning evidence, and it takes a sequence of events to unfold for her to finally trust him, knowing that he has the best of intentions and really means it when the Terminator is after her, and that the future is real. Linda Hamilton shows off a number of emotions, compounding into the eventual evolution of her by the end of the movie. She goes from running and hiding underneath a desk to finally confronting the T-800 itself, realizing that running away would solve nothing. Sarah Connor goes from being a naive, scared woman to becoming one of the strongest female protagonists in cinema, along the likes of Milan, Ellen Ripley, Trinity, Princess Leia, The Bride, and many others. Michael Biehn was a fantastic choice as Kyle Reese. He performs a convincing play of a character who has genuinely seen some horrifying shit, coming from a world so bleak and hopeless that it literally followed him into the past, from the scars on his body, to the dead eyes, to the dreams he has. It's like he's still there, and that finding and protecting Sarah was his last hope for humanity's survival. We don't know a lot about him, other than that he grew up after Judgment Day, when Skynet decided to exterminate humanity by any means necessary. And at some points throughout the movie, we get a glimpse of the nightmare he grew up in. The future war is depicted as a grey and desolate landscape, showing the remnants of humanity hiding like rats from a high-tech armada of merciless robots with a single goal in mind: humanity's extinction. We see firsthand how much the odds are stacked against them already, using bygone weapons that do just about nothing, salvaged phase plasma rifles and explosives that are effective but are hard to come by because of how resilient the machines are. Out of all the depictions of a post-apocalyptic setting, Terminator 1 is by far my favorite. Also, it was one of the few post-apocalyptic depictions to not just show skulls, but bodies. Let that sink in. But even in these scenes, we see Kyle Reese still holding on to the fighting spirit, even so much as pretending to shoot a gun at a kid, wanting to be a resistance fighter just like him. It shows in his character a sense of care and a duty to protect what's important. And in both the future and the past, he puts himself at risk time and time again for both humanity's sake as well as Sarah's. We are also shown the perspective of the police force. The main stars behind them are Paul Winfield and Lance Henriksen. They begin investigating the death of the first Sarah Connor, and also receive a call from the other Sarah Connor after she tells them that she feels that she's being followed by someone. This is where their role comes into play. It's great that they gave the police the spotlight as well in this movie, and that they weren't ignored for just the three main characters to play in a playground. The Terminator isn't the only force that's after Kyle and Sarah, and this helps raise the stakes even more. When Kyle is captured eventually, it's standard procedure. They don't really know what's going on, and they don't care. And to be fair, it's hard to convince a police department in the 80s that you're being chased by an endoskeleton cyborg without being laughed at and handcuffed on the way to a jail cell. The two main police officers show concern for Sarah's well-being, and it does come from the best of intentions. But we all know what's going to happen. And after everything we were shown in the Future War, where there were more T-800s wiping out entire basements filled with humans by themselves, that's when you know the department is truly fucked. Arnold Schwarzenegger was someone at the time not necessarily known for his acting chops. His physical presence would carry him onto films such as Conan the Barbarian and its sequel. But the Terminator is arguably his best performance in any movie, in terms of immersing oneself completely into a role. Now, originally Lance Henriksen was considered for the role of being the Terminator. His more ordinary appearance enabled him to blend in more easily, since that's what Terminators, also known as infiltrators, were designed for. But I'm glad they gave Arnold the reins this time around. His approach to playing as a machine with an incomplete emulation of human behavior, as well as his daunting physical appearance to match, makes him one of the most iconic and terrifying characters in sci-fi and horror. Throughout the whole movie, Arnold relishes his role, from the patrol car scene where he stated he wanted to portray a great white shark hunting his prey, to the recording and repeating of sentences, and to the robotic movements that he makes. Not once in the whole film does he move naturally like a human. He purposefully gives off this inhuman way of conducting himself in every scene he is in, and every weapon he collects, every injury he sustains has a purpose, and has a consistency throughout the whole film. If you take a look at the gun store scene, Arnold uses every weapon he collects to his disposal. He doesn't pick up a weapon he doesn't use. The Spaz 12 when he shoots the owner, the 45 long slide when he kills the first Sarah Connor, kills Sarah's friend, as well as trying to kill Sarah herself, as well as using the Uzi, the Spaz 12 and the Armalite AR-18 in the police shootout, the Smith & Wesson Model 15 during the car chase, as well as the 37 shotgun. The scary thing about the T-800 in this film is that he is more effective with the modern weapons of the 80s than they are against him. Case in point, the police shootout. Now, during the scenes where you see him assessing the damage done to his human appearance, this is when he starts to look a little bit weird. But this was in the 80s, where CGI and practical effects still had a long way to go. Future installments would see huge improvements, but would also lose the horror aspect in the process. Personally, I like it. It adds an inhuman touch to his character, showing no sign of pain as he takes bullets and shrapnel out of his body, the complete disregard for the ruin of his flesh and appearance. It just adds to the fact that no matter what Sarah and Kyle were doing to him, it still did nothing to hurt him. He was still after them, like a force of nature, appearing in the shape of a man. Terminator 1 is one of the best sci-fi and horror films ever made, and every time I look back to it, I discover more of its greatness. With only a $6.4 million budget, they created one of the most memorable portrayals of a cyborg ever displayed, one of the bleakest and most nightmarish dystopias ever conceived, and also brought Arnold to even bigger and more ambitious roles later on in the years. Some of the other actors like Bill Paxton, Michael Biehn, and Lance Henriksen would end up in another sci-fi movie I absolutely fucking love, also directed by James Cameron. Yeah, that's right. It took me a while to realize that Bill Paxton was in the first Terminator. He was the guy that said a very memorable line.
Fuck you, asshole.
Terminator 1 is a prime example of making great sci-fi with what's considered a shoestring budget in Hollywood, where millions of dollars are pumped into movie projects every year, some exceeding in the hundreds of millions. You don't always need a lot of money. Sometimes you just need a really fucking good idea that the right people can get on board with. Thank you for watching.